The Last Stand is the story of the 189 Swiss guards who gave their lives in 1527 protecting the Pope from the imperial mutinous army of Charles V. This is the story of the sack of Rome on the 6th of May 1527, between the Holy Roman Empire and the Papal States. Now in the mid-1520s, the Papal States and other states in Italy were increasingly wary of the rising power of the Spanish and the Holy Roman Empire, who had come together under Charles V in 1519. So together with the French and the English, they formed the League of Cognac. However, this league would soon turn against them, this French alliance, because in 1525 at the Battle of Pavia, the French were decisively defeated by an imperial Spanish army and the French King Francis was captured. Soon after this, however, the Holy Roman Emperor found that he had no more money to pay his troops, and of course then the troops wanted to pay themselves in a different way, not to mention the fact that many of the troops were Landsknecht from Germany who had been inspired by the Protestant ideas of Martin Luther and also wanted some holy revenge on the heart of the Catholic religion, the Holy See. And so the two parts of the army decided to go to Rome, where they knew there would be a lot of plunder and booty as well. Now the Imperial Forces involved were around 20,000 strong. There were around 6,000 Spanish tercios under the direct command of Charles, and there were 14,000 German Landsknechts, some of them being the new Protestant ones I recently mentioned, as well as several thousand cavalry under other commanders. The Papal Forces to defend the city were around 5,200 strong, with 5,000 condottieri militia, the ones famously used by the Italian states during this time, and 189 Swiss guards. Now the Swiss guards had been brought in 1505 during the earlier Italian wars by Pope Julius, and these were the men from Switzerland, from the strongly Catholic part of the Swiss independent confederations, which came to the Pope and served as his holy guard. Swiss were the elite pikemen throughout Europe during this time, and the mercenaries were paid far more than any other due to their skill in combat. Now, characteristically, Charles, the Duke of Bourbon, led the attack from the front, and he did this wearing his white coat to inspire his troops, so they knew that the leader was at the front. However, this made him a target, and as this Spanish text tells, this was a crucial part of the battle. Aquí fue Bourbon muerto y derribado por los muros de Roma. Pero entraron los soldados con ánimo esforzado, y ellos la ciudad todo saquearon. Here Bourbon died and was felled before the walls of Rome, but his soldiers entered with forceful animation and they totally sacked the city. And who tried to sort out the Holy Roman Emperor's army after he was killed in battle? Well, it was Philibert. Yes, Philibert. Do you not know Philibert? You know, the famous Philibert of Chalon? Well, what if I told you he was Philibert, the last of the French line of the House of Orange? And yes, you know where this is going. Enraged by the death of their duke some moments before, the imperial troops pushed forward and soon overwhelmed the condottieri militia on the walls of Rome, thus beginning the famous and terrible sack of Rome, in which unspeakable atrocities were committed against the population, causing one prominent Roman citizen to declare, "I hope that in hell there are devils and not Spaniards." Of course, now this meant that the holiest figure, the vicar of Christ on earth, the Pope, was in danger of these mutinous rebels in the middle of Rome. But, of course, he had a few tricks up his sleeve, and one of them was the Castel Sant Angelo, the impregnable papal fortress in the middle of the Holy See, which he could escape to. However, to get there from the St. Peter's Basilica, which was his home, he would have to cross the streets of Rome, which were now swarming with these mutinous troops, killing everyone in sight. However, some 100 years before, the Passetto di Borgo had been built, a raised passageway between the St. Peter's Basilica, a secret passage to the Castel Sant Angelo, and it was over this walkway that he'd be able to escape to safety. And of course, the Swiss guards would play a crucial role in this, in protecting the Pope so that he could make it. But of course, the enemy troops, the mutinous troops of Charles, also knew this and knew the wealth that they could get from ransoming the Pope. So they also attempted to capture the Pope. But the Swiss guards, though few in number, held them off valiantly on the steps of heaven, on the steps of St. Peter's Basilica, they being left behind, the only to escape being the 42 who accompanied the Pope across the Passetto di Borgo towards the Castel Sant Angelo and away to safety, the others giving their lives whilst fighting off hundreds, possibly thousands of these imperial troops trying to capture the Pope. Now, the papal casualties during the sack of Rome were truly horrific. 500 of the militiamen were killed in combat, while 147 out of the original 189 Swiss guards were killed during this fight, as well as 45,000 civilians being killed, exiled or captured. Something ridiculous like there used to be 50,000 inhabitants of Rome and it went down to 10,000 during all of the fighting that went on and people fleeing the city and all of this. Now, the imperial casualties we're not entirely sure of, but we can be fairly certain that many of them will have died trying to fight through the ranks of the papal Swiss guards to get to the Pope, as well as some of them trying to take the walls from the condottieri militia. And to this day, the Swiss guards remain the pontifical guards of the Pope. It's still a very small force in the Vatican City, and you have to be between, I believe it's 19 and 30 years old, a Swiss male Catholic, and the recruitment process is incredibly stringent, only the best of the best, but they are still in their ceremonial role as the protectors of the Pope, one of the oldest military continuous institutions to still be going on. So thank you very much for watching. This has been the story of the Swiss Guards, the last stand of the Swiss Guards during the sack of Rome in 1527, which allowed the Pope to escape to safety while the Holy City burned all around them. So thanks again to the Patreons for making it possible for me to take time out to go and make this video. Huge thanks to the Huscarls and the Eldermen, and I hope you have indeed enjoyed this video. Now, I might be putting I've definitely got a few more of these coming about sort of the stories behind some of the Sabaton songs, because I know a lot of people are fans of that, and I know there are many interesting little tidbits of history that I can look at with this. So I might even put up a vote at some point in the future to see which one you would like to see next. So thank you very much for watching. I've been History with Hilbert. This has been the Sabaton story about the last stand of the Swiss Guards.